top 20 deadliest gunslingers in the history of the Old West. Here goes my vote. The classic pistol duel at high noon, immortalized in Western movies, rarely happens in real life. There is much more blood and violence in Old West gunfights than is depicted in the gallant myth. Among the outlaws and lawmen, there were a few gunfighters who became larger-than-life figures and provided inspiration for Hollywood's iconic characters. Welcome to Top 20 Deadliest Gunslingers in the History of the Old West. Number 20, Dan Bogan. A fiery cowboy with a hair-trigger temper, was notorious for seeking trouble at every turn. His penchant for brawls and shootouts quickly earned him a reputation as a troublemaker, and it is believed that by 1886, he had already claimed the lives of 3 men. However, Bogan's lethal tendencies didn't end there. On January 15, 1887, he brazenly murdered Constable Charles S. Gunn, a former Texas Ranger, with a single shot from his revolver. Though wounded and captured, Bogan managed to escape during a fierce blizzard, leaving a trail of fear in his wake. Despite his infamy, Dan Bogan remains one of the Old West's most underestimated gunslingers, as highlighted by author Robert K. DeArmond. Number 19. Luke Short. Born in Mississippi in 1854, but raised in the rugged lands of Texas, Luke Short emerged as one of the Old West's fastest-drawing gunslingers and a deadly killer. As a young man, he left home and led a life of diverse occupations, from cowboy to illegal whiskey trader and professional gambler. But it was Short's uncanny skill with a gun that set him apart from the rest. Having engaged in over 30 intense battles against Indians while working for the government, Short's reputation as a formidable gunslinger grew. However, trouble found him when he bought shares in the Long Branch Saloon in Dodge City, Kansas. Branded as undesirable by local authorities, Short was faced with attempts to force him out of town. Refusing to back down, he sought the help of renowned Old West lawman Bat Masterson, who, in turn, called upon Wyatt Earp and his posse of desperados. The standoff was averted, and Short was allowed to reopen his saloon without a single gunshot fired. Luke Short's fame only grew as he faced off against notorious gunslinger Jim Courtright in a legendary duel on February 8, 1887 in Fort Worth, Texas. Short's quick draw saved his own life while abruptly ending Courtright's. Number 18. Sam Bass. Born on July 21, 1851 in Mitchell, Indiana, Sam Bass's life took a tumultuous turn as he struggled to find success in the world of business. Frustrated by his failures, he found himself drawn to a life of crime, joining a band of outlaws and embarking on a spree of stagecoach robberies. With each successful heist, Bass's daring and audacity grew. In one of the boldest heists in history, Bass and his gang set their sights on robbing the Union Pacific Gold train traveling from San Francisco, raking in a staggering sum of over $60,000. It remains the largest train robbery in the annals of the Union Pacific Railroad. However, Bass's criminal escapades caught the attention of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency and the relentless Texas Rangers. Pursued by lawmen determined to bring him to justice, Bass and his gang were cornered in Round Rock, Texas, during an attempted robbery of the Williamson County Bank. A deadly ambush ensued, resulting in the killing of Williamson County Deputy Sheriff A.W. Grimes, and Bass himself was critically wounded. Found lying in a field west of Round Rock, Bass lost his life to his injuries the next day. He was laid to rest in Round Rock Cemetery, with the road leading to his final resting place later named Sam Bass Road in memory of the notorious outlaw. Number 17. Butch Cassidy. Robert Leroy Parker, better known as Butch Cassidy, rose to infamy as the mastermind behind the notorious Wild Bunch Gang, responsible for a string of daring train and bank robberies across the American West. His alias, Cassidy, paid tribute to his mentor and friend Mike Cassidy, who imparted crucial shooting skills to the young outlaw. In 1889, Butch and his accomplices staged a daring heist, robbing the San Miguel Valley Bank in Telluride and making off with a staggering $21,000. With his ill-gotten gains, Cassidy purchased the infamous Hole-in-Wall Ranch, believed to serve as a perfect hideout for his illegal activities. Number 16. Henry Longabaugh, a.k.a. the Sundance Kid. After being caught and convicted of horse theft in Sundance, Wyoming, he was given this moniker. Despite his reputation as a gunfighter, it remains uncertain whether he actually took anyone's life. Following his release from jail in 1896, the Sundance Kid joined forces with his partner, Robert Leroy Parker, also known as Butch Cassidy, to form the notorious Wild Bunch Gang. Together, they orchestrated a series of daring train and bank robberies, creating the longest and most successful string of such heists in American history. The Wild Bunch's audacious exploits and ability to evade capture earned them a fearsome reputation in the Old West. Number 15. Ben Thompson. He was a multifaceted figure in the Old West, dabbling in gambling, gunfighting, and even law enforcement. His criminal journey commenced at a tender age of 17 when he fatally stabbed a fellow gambler whom he accused of cheating during a card game. Known for his remarkable speed on the draw, Thompson solidified his reputation as a formidable gunfighter when he engaged in a shootout, claiming the lives of 2 men on Christmas Eve of 1876. Seeking to escape his gunfighter image, Thompson attempted to take on the role of city marshal in Austin, Texas. However, his violent temper got the better of him, and he was compelled to resign after killing a local theater owner named Jack Harris during a heated argument. Tragically, Ben Thompson's life came to an abrupt end in 1884, when he and fellow gunfighter King Fisher were ambushed and ruthlessly gunned down while watching a performance at an opera house. He is considered to be one of the most complex and notorious figures in the Old West due to his association with some of the most prominent figures of the era, along with his deadly reputation. Number 14. Jesse James. A prominent member of the infamous James Younger Gang, earned his notoriety as a criminal mastermind, infamous for his daring bank, stagecoach, and train robberies. During his lifetime, Jesse was already a celebrity, garnering attention in newspapers as a folk hero of sorts. However, his legend only grew after his untimely death. On April 3, 1882, tragedy struck when Jesse James was shot in the back of his head while at his own home. The perpetrator of this treacherous act was none other than his trusted friend, Robert Ford. Ford, hoping to claim the lucrative reward money, betrayed Jesse, and his act of cowardice forever stained his name. In the aftermath of his death, Jesse James's mother, Zerelda James, chose a poignant epitaph to honor her beloved son, condemning Ford as a traitor and a coward. In loving memory of my beloved son, murdered by a traitor and coward whose name is not worthy to appear here. Number 13. Wyatt Earp. The legendary lawman of the Old West stands as one of the most iconic figures of his time. His storied career took him to bustling boomtowns like Wichita, Dodge City, and the notorious Tombstone, where he served as sheriff. Renowned for his gunfighting skills, Earp struck fear into the hearts of bandits and outlaws. His most famous and infamous encounter was the gunfight at the OK Corral in 1881. Alongside his brothers Morgan and Virgil, as well as the infamous Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp faced off against a group of cowboys who had recently been arrested for robbing a stagecoach. The violent clash resulted in 3 cowboys losing their lives, and Earp's group endured injuries as well. The aftermath of the gunfight sparked a scandal, with friends of the deceased cowboys seeking revenge. Virgil was wounded, and Morgan tragically lost his life. Driven by a thirst for justice, Earp and Holliday embarked on a vengeance-fueled spree known as the Vendetta Ride, eliminating several men connected to the murders before fleeing the territory. Throughout his life, Wyatt Earp participated in numerous gunfights, with varying accounts attributing him to killing anywhere from 8 to 30 outlaws. Some of the most famous Old West tales revolve around his exploits. Number 12. Doc Holliday. Over 125 years have passed since his death. The legacy of John Henry Doc Holliday continues to capture minds, with ongoing debates about the extent of his criminal activities. A skilled dentist with a DDS degree, fate led him to the Southwest after being diagnosed with tuberculosis at a young age of 15. There, he traded dentistry for gambling and gained notoriety as a deadly gunman. Doc Holliday's name became intertwined with that of Wyatt Earp during the infamous Vendetta Ride. Riding side by side, they sought justice against those responsible for the gunfight at the OK Corral. Throughout his life, Holliday is believed to have taken the lives of at least 10 men. Number 11. King Fisher. His legacy in the Old West is one of violence and mayhem. despite being less well-known than some of his contemporaries. Starting his criminal journey at a young age, Fisher found himself in and out of prison from the tender age of 16. In the early 1870s, he joined a band of outlaws and became known for raiding ranches in Mexico, cementing his reputation as a ruthless bandit. Fisher's flamboyant style, often dressed in brightly colored clothes, made him stand out. He was notorious for carrying twin ivory-handled pistols, which he wielded with deadly precision. His violent streak was evident when he killed 3 members of his own gang over a money dispute and, shortly after, he gunned down 7 Mexican pistoleros, further solidifying his reputation as a merciless gunslinger. One of his most infamous encounters was when Fisher single-handedly took on 4 Mexican cowboys in a gunfight. Using a branding iron as a weapon, he outdrew one, shot another, and cold-bloodedly executed 2 unarmed accomplices. However, the reign of terror came to an end for Fisher in 1884 when he was ambushed and killed, along with gunfighter Ben Thompson. Friends of a man whom Thompson had killed in a previous gun battle sought revenge, putting a violent and tragic end to King Fisher's violent saga in the Old West. Number 10. Harvey "Kid Curry" Logan. He was a notorious gunslinger and outlaw of the Wild West, known for his involvement in numerous criminal activities. Born in Tama County, Iowa, in 1867, he had a penchant for trouble from a young age and got entangled in robbery and lawbreaking. His life took a violent turn when he was accused of assaulting the daughter of a miner and lawman named Powell Pike Landusky. Seeking revenge, Logan shot and killed Landusky in a saloon on December 27, 1894. Forced to flee, Kid Curry joined forces with other outlaws, including Blackjack Ketchum, and eventually became a part of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance's Kid infamous gang, the Wild Bunch. Regarded by some as the fastest gun in the West, Logan was even believed to be the inspiration for the Sundance Kid character depicted in Hollywood. During his criminal career, Logan and his gang participated in a string of train robberies across South Dakota, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Colorado. Wild West magazine dubbed him the wildest of the Wild Bunch due to his fearless and ruthless nature. Kid Curry's escapades were not without consequences. He broke out of prison twice and was allegedly involved in the deaths of 9 men during various shooting incidents. However, his life of crime eventually caught up with him. On June 17, 1904, he was wounded in a gunfight in Parachute, Colorado, and to evade capture, he chose to take his own life. Despite the legend of his demise in Colorado, some rumors persist that Kid Curry may have escaped to South America alongside Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Number 9. Dallas Stoudemire. In the Old West era, he was a lawman who instilled fear in outlaws' hearts, although he was not as well known as Wild Bill Hickok or Wyatt Earp. After enduring multiple wounds in the Civil War, Stoudemire sought a new life in the lawless city of El Paso, Texas, where he took on the role of sheriff. Only 3 days into his term, he found himself in the midst of a legendary gunfight known as the 4 Dead in 5 Seconds gunfight. During this intense encounter, Stoudemire displayed his quick draw and gunfighting skills by shooting down 3 men in rapid succession. However, the fallout from this confrontation brought new dangers to his doorstep. Friends of the men he had shot sought revenge and hired an assassin to take him out. But Stoudemire, ever vigilant, managed to outdraw and kill the would-be assassin, firmly establishing his reputation as a formidable lawman. Throughout his time as sheriff, Stoudemire engaged in several more gunfights, killing as many as 6 more men while on duty. This earned him a fearsome reputation as one of Texas's most notorious and ruthless lawmen. However, luck eventually turned against him. In 1882, during a heated discussion with a group of adversaries, a gunfight erupted, and Stoudemire was shot 3 times, leading to his untimely demise. Number 8. Myra Maybelle Shirley Reed Starr, otherwise known as Belle Starr. She was a notorious figure in the Old West, earning the moniker the Bandit Queen. Born in Carthage, Missouri, she grew up in a world of outlaws, befriending the likes of Cole Younger and the James brothers. The James Younger gang often sought refuge at her family's farm, and she eventually married Jim Reed, a former Confederate guerrilla with a penchant for crime. Belle and Jim, along with their friends, the Jameses and Youngers, orchestrated several successful heists. However, tragedy stuck when Jim was killed while attempting to escape from a deputy sheriff. Widowed, Belle continued the life of crime, planning robberies and dealing in stolen goods. Throughout her criminal career, she's believed to have shot and killed at least 3 men. Notorious for her charm, Belle used her allure to manipulate and seduce law enforcement officers to her advantage. When bribery failed, she married Sam Starr, a Cherokee Indian known for horse stealing. Despite a conviction for horse theft, they returned to a life of crime after their release. As legend goes, Belle is said to have killed at least 2 more men who posed a threat to her illicit activities. However, her own life came to a violent end on February 3, 1889, just 2 days shy of her 41st birthday. While riding home from the general store, she was shot and killed. There's no sign of her killer to this day, which leaves her story shrouded in mystery. Number 7. Bass Reeves. He was undoubtedly a formidable lawman with an impressive story, although he was not often called the deadliest gunslinger. Born into slavery in 1838, he managed to escape during the Civil War and found refuge in Indian Territory, where escaped slaves and criminals sought solace among the Native Americans. Living among the natives, Reeves learned their languages and customs. With the end of the war, Bass regained his freedom and became an American citizen, marking the beginning of his remarkable law enforcement career. The Wild West, as popularized in movies and books, came to life with figures like Judge Parker, who was appointed to oversee the Indian Territories due to the increasing issue of criminals finding sanctuary among the Native Americans. To combat this problem, the federal government sought marshals who could communicate with the natives. Bass Reeves, with his ability to speak their languages, became one of the first black deputy marshals west of the Mississippi when he was recruited into the U.S. Marshal Service. Throughout his illustrious career, Reeves brought thousands of criminals to justice, and it is said that he killed 14 outlaws in self-defense. His dedication to upholding the law even extended to his own family, as he arrested his own son for murder when the young man killed his wife. Fearing that another marshal might mistreat his son during the arrest, Reeves insisted on conducting the arrest himself, ensuring that justice was served. His son served an 11-year prison sentence before being released. Number 6. Wild Bill Hickok. An iconic figure of the Old West, led a colorful and adventurous life filled with daring feats and legendary gunfights. Starting as a constable and rider for the Pony Express, Hickok's reputation as a skilled gunslinger began to grow after he killed outlaw David McCandless from an impressive 75 yards away with a single bullet. One of Wild Bill's most famous encounters was a classic Western-style quick-draw duel with Davis Tutt Jr. over a gambling dispute. Hickok emerged victorious, cementing his reputation as one of the most adept gunfighters of his time. In 1869, he was elected sheriff of Ellis County, Kansas, and during his first month on the job, he is said to have killed 2 men. Despite many heroic exploits, Wild Bill's legacy is often overshadowed by his infamous death. In 1876, while playing poker in Deadwood, South Dakota, he was shot in the back of the head by a gambler named Jack McCall. The motive was allegedly a revenge-driven response to a previous insult. At the time of his death, Hickok was reportedly holding a pair of aces and eights, now famously known as the Dead Man's Hand. Number 5. Billy the Kid. Originally known as Henry McCarty, but also called William H. Bonney, was a notorious figure in the Wild West. His life of crime began with minor offenses like petty theft and horse thievery, but he is believed to have committed his first murder at just 18 years old. During the Lincoln County War in 1877, he was deputized and joined a group called the Regulators, seeking justice for the murder of an innocent rancher by corrupt businessmen. However, their methods quickly turned violent and they themselves were labeled outlaws. The Regulators engaged in a series of killings, including a sheriff and his deputy, gaining a reputation for their ruthless behavior. Despite law enforcement breaking up the group, Billy the Kid evaded capture and formed his own gang. His notoriety only grew after he shot a gambler in a saloon, cementing his status as a dangerous outlaw. Several arrests and escapes followed, but Billy's criminal career ultimately ended when Sheriff Pat Garrett and his deputy shot him dead in 1881. While legends suggest he killed 21 men, one for each year of his life, the actual number is debated and likely exaggerated. Number 4. Clay Allison. A notorious figure of the Old West, was infamous for his violent and erratic behavior. He fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War, but was discharged due to the effects of a head injury, which led to his unpredictable and deranged actions. His most shocking act was beheading a man he suspected of murder and carrying the severed head into a bar, solidifying his reputation as a murderous outlaw. Allison engaged in numerous gunfights with fellow gunslingers, the most famous of which was against Chuck Colbert. When Colbert drew his gun on Allison after sharing a meal together, Allison promptly shot him in the head. When asked why he had dined with a man who wanted to kill him, Allison famously replied, "I wouldn't want to send a man to hell on an empty stomach." Despite leading such a dangerous lifestyle, Allison met an ironic and unimpressive death in 1887 when he fell off a wagon and broke his neck. His gravestone is said to bear the epitaph, "Clay Allison, gentleman, gunfighter. He never killed a man that didn't need killing." Number 3. Tom Horn Jr. A former lawman and detective, was one of the most notorious and cold-blooded killers in the history of the Old West. Initially recognized for his skills as a scout and tracker in the 1880s, Horn played a pivotal role in capturing numerous feared criminals. The Pinkerton Detective Agency took notice of his talents and employed him as a tracker and bounty hunter for several years. Despite his reputation for remaining remarkably composed under pressure, Horn had a dark side characterized by a dangerous capacity for violence. In 1894, he faced suspicions of being involved in the murders of 17 people, leading to his resignation from the detective agency. Subsequently, he gained a sinister reputation as a contract killer, allegedly responsible for the deaths of around 20 cattle rustlers over the years. Horn's criminal career culminated in his capture and hanging in 1901 for the murder of a 14-year-old boy. Interestingly, some modern historians have suggested that he may have been innocent in this specific case. However, there is no denying his involvement in numerous other killings, with some experts speculating that he might have been responsible for as many as 50 murders. Number 2. Jim Killer Miller. It is undeniable that he was one of the most violent and deadliest figures in the history of the Old West. Often credited with at least 14 killings, his actual body count might be much higher, with some accounts suggesting it could be as many as 50. Miller's reputation for violence and cold-bloodedness earned him the chilling nickname Killer. One infamous incident involving him took place when he faced off against Sheriff Bud Frazier over his alleged role in the murder of a cattle rancher. Miller survived 6 gunshot wounds during the confrontation thanks to a metal plate he wore under his shirt that acted as an impromptu bulletproof vest. 2 years later, he sought revenge on Frazier, tracking him down and killing him with a shotgun. Known to be motivated by money, Miller was a hired assassin, willing to kill anyone for the right price. His victims ranged from political figures to even the famed lawman Pat Garrett. His blood-soaked career finally came to an end in 1909 when he was arrested for the murder of a U.S. Marshal. However, justice was swift and brutal as a mob of around 40 people stormed the prison, dragging Miller and 3 other outlaws to a nearby barn where they were lynched. In a final display of his maniacal demeanor, Miller defiantly shouted, "Let her rip," before voluntarily jumping off the box to his death. Number 1. John Wesley Hardin. He leaves behind a trail of blood and destruction throughout his short but tumultuous life as one of the most ruthless and deadly figures of the Old West. Born to a Methodist preacher, Hardin displayed a propensity for violence from a young age. At just 14, he stabbed a fellow student, and at 15, he killed an ex-slave. Soon after, he went on a killing spree, taking the lives of 3 Union soldiers. Armed with 2 pistols holstered on his chest, Hardin became infamous for his quick draw and used it to gun down 3 more people in various gunfights. His reputation as a skilled gunslinger and notorious outlaw grew rapidly. At age 17, he was arrested for the murder of Texas City Marshal but managed to escape while in custody, killing one of his guards in the process. Seeking refuge in Abilene, he came under the wing of Wild Bill Hickok, but his violent nature couldn't be restrained. Hardin had to leave Abilene after shooting and killing a fellow hotel guest simply because the man's snoring disturbed his sleep. Arrested by the Texas Rangers at 25, he spent a total of 16 years in prison. During his incarceration, he underwent a transformation, studying law and passing the bar examination. After his release at 41, he aimed to start a new life as a lawyer, hoping to put his notorious past behind him. However, the violent reputation he had acquired throughout his life proved hard to shake off. In 1895, at the age of 42, he was gunned down by a lawman in El Paso, Texas, ending the life of one of the deadliest and most feared gunslingers in the history of the Old West. Now you know the real stories behind Old West gunfighters, a wild ride of blood, bullets, and larger-than-life legends. I hope you enjoyed this thrilling journey. Please like the video and subscribe for more fascinating videos.